Why does this keep happening? And this. And also this. It's the running joke in the automotive community. Mustangs wrapped around a tree, Mustangs in a ditch. What is going on here? Well, I am actually going to try and give my take on the situation. And before you slander me on your Mustang forums, which I know is going to happen, I want to reach out to you, the owners. And I mean, try and be as objective and unbiased about this as possible. I genuinely want to know your thoughts on this and what I'm about to say, because I get it. It's hard for an owner to be unbiased because you've already made up your decision, so now you're just going to defend it to the grave. But if there's a Mustang owner that's really conquered the Mustang, you drive it hard, you take it to the track, and you really know what it's like to drive a car at its limits, then please contribute to this. Okay, my first point I'm going to make is there's a lack of communication with this car. Currently, I'm testing the 2021 high-performance 2.3-liter EcoBoost Mustang with all the performance package goodies, but I just can't really seem to get a good feel on what the front end is doing, the rear end. The car just doesn't really talk to me. The steering is relatively numb. Also, the steering wheel is a little bit on the larger side. That being said, it is very retro and I do like gripping onto it, but I just don't have a good feel for this car when I drive it hard on the road. Now, because this is the 2021 model, this is vastly improved over the 2020 EcoBoost that I've tested out, along with the 2019 PP1 and PP2 GT Mustangs I've tested. So I will say that Ford has improved the driving feel of this, but it's still not ideal. The other thing is, I've noticed that this vehicle, it kind of gets provoked by the terrain a little more than it should. So when you're driving it hard, and you're driving at some really high speeds, you notice that this car, when you kind of go over like a bumpier terrain, it kind of gets jounced about a little bit more. You need to be a little bit more aware. You need to really correct for these things. The brakes, on the other hand, is fantastic. That's nobody should have a complaint with the brakes on this. This should be far superior to what you get in most cars, honestly. And it's not just the braking performance, it's also the fact that when you're tracking this car, the brakes don't really fade too quickly. So it's typically one of the best braking setups you can get from the factory for under 50 grand. But the things I just mentioned there, lack of communication and the slightly more bouncy feel to its suspension / chassis, and the reason why I feel like a lot of people just put this thing into a ditch. Sure, this is a huge improvement over the previous generation Mustangs with the live rear axle, but I still feel like my points remain with this new S550 generation. Some of you might be like, who is this guy? I've had enough of this. Why isn't he saying nice things about my car? Well, many other people have also made videos like this, trying to answer this question as to why this car just keeps running into crowds of people. Most of it is just putting down 16-year-old children. But I would argue that the driving skill between a 16-year-old and a 56-year-old honestly isn't too far apart, especially in the United States. Less than 1% of people in this world probably have proper track driving or hardcore driving instructions, right? Most of you are not racing drivers. Most of your time is spent out on the road doing 45 miles an hour at the speed limit. So most people just don't have the opportunity or the skill to push cars at the limit. So everybody's driving pretty much sucks. Nobody is a racing driver out here. Many people like to think they are, and that overconfidence leads them into trouble, sure, but that's not just the children, that's also older people as well. But despite being a complete amateur, I've been able to take a 6-figure Lexus LC500. One of the first things I did with that car is stick it into an intersection, turning left, and I just drifted that thing. Not because I'm amazing, but because it's easy to do in that car. There's no guesswork. The car just communicates with you so well. But before you tear me apart about this, let's mention the competitors here as well, the Camaro and the Challenger. Neither of these vehicles suffer from the issues I just mentioned here with this Mustang. it's just the truth. I mean, I had the Scat Pack Challenger for over a month, and many people complain that the Challengers and the Chargers can't handle well. I honestly have no idea what the hell they're talking about. They complain about the weight and they automatically assume that it's a vehicle that can't handle. Out on the street, the handling performance of the Challengers and the Chargers are phenomenal. It's such a long wheelbase vehicle, so you know exactly what's going on from the front end, the rear end, and because it's a longer wheelbase car, when the rear end does lose traction, you have a lot of time to prepare and to correct the slides. I was talking to an owner of a Scat Pack. He made a left-hand turn at an intersection and he just kept sliding that thing all the way through. And he said, well, the reason why I can do that is because I know exactly what the vehicle is doing. The Camaro is another perfect example. I've driven the 4-cylinder variant, the SS, and also the ZL1 Camaros. All of them, I have the utmost confidence in them. I just feel like the Camaro is the most optimized out of the box. From the factory, you don't have to touch the Camaro. Now, am I saying that the Mustang, the S550, this generation is a bad car? Absolutely not. The thing that you have to keep in mind with the Mustang, and when I spoke to another Mustang owner, what he told me when I mentioned these things to him is he agrees with me. Out of the box, he does agree that the Mustang is a bit flawed when it comes to communication and things like that. The fix for that is about 10 grand worth of modifications. He spent money on suspension, bushings, tire and wheel setup, etc. And he finally got it to a point where he can track it, it feels good to him, and he has plenty of confidence. And it kind of closes the gap between the Mustang and the Camaro in terms of driving feel, right? If you're going to buy a Mustang and you're a person that likes to drive the vehicle a little bit harder, know that you're probably going to have to modify it. But that's not a bad thing, because if you're going to buy any one of these vehicles, Challenger, Camaro, and the Mustang, don't touch the Camaro and the Scat Packs. They're perfect right out of the factory. If you have the itch to modify something, the Mustang is the perfect car to do that with. But Ford isn't stupid. They do know how to make a proper driving car. It's called the Shelbys. There's nothing that you have to do to the Shelby vehicles. I drove the GT500 out on the track. One of the most confidence-inspiring vehicles I've ever tried. 760 horsepower, and I swear to you, your grandmother could drive that car. There's really no drama with it. It was one of the easiest high-horsepower vehicles, aside from maybe the ZL1, that I've ever tried. The 7-speed Tremec dual clutch was incredible. I mean, this 10-speed automatic is fantastic as well. But yeah, the 7-speed dual clutch was amazing. The handling, the sheer amount of grip, it was just a really well-engineered vehicle. So yes, if you spend lots of money, you can get a proper Mustang. And the Mach 1 is something else to consider as well. Many people complain and are sad that the Shelby GT350 is no more. And of course it is a sad thing, but they took a lot of the goodies from those Shelby products and they injected it into the Mach 1. And they gave it the 5-liter Coyote, which is one of the most charismatic engines. Yeah, the Voodoo engine is amazing, but let's be honest, it does blow up a lot. It's not the most reliable engine when you drive it hard, but the Coyote is. And for a vehicle that's under $50,000, $60,000, the Coyote engine is genuinely one of the most luscious sounding motors that you can possibly get, far better than the Scat Pack 6.4 and the 6.2 found in the Camaro. And that's probably my biggest complaint about the Camaro. The engine has pretty much no character, no soul. One of the reasons why I despise the C8 Corvette, actually. It's because when you step on it, sure, it's a quick car, but you feel absolutely nothing when you floor it, because it just doesn't sound that thrilling. Unless you get the NPP exhaust with the Camaro, absolute must. At least then it backfires and pops and crackles like a Jaguar F-Type. So that adds to the character, but I still maintain 5-liter V8 Mustang with the dual mode exhaust, the best sounding car you can possibly get. And with the Mach 1 / Shelby upgrades that it has, I think that could be a really good Mustang where you don't have to touch it. So that's my thoughts on the matter. I don't hate this vehicle. In fact, it's every bit as capable as something like the Camaro. The chassis control on this is genuinely fantastic. It's mainly a suspension issue. Maybe if you swap it out with like an Öhlins damper set, this can be a really beautiful driving car. I'm going to make another video talking about the daily drivability of this, because this is a phenomenal daily driver, and so is the fuel economy. So again, if you're a Mustang owner that's not ticked off by this, and you can actually add to this conversation, and you can objectively let us know if what I said has any merit behind it, let us know in the comment section. It should be able to help many people that are in the buying market for a vehicle like this. It's a dream car for many. This car oozes character, far more than the Camaro, and only really to be matched by the Challenger in terms of its swagger out on the road, because the Camaro just looks dumb. The Mustang is simply an icon. It's something that many people identify with. They love it. It's a dream car. And if you have some extra money to blow on modifications, this can be brilliant. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks again for watching. Take care, and goodbye.